Welcome back to the War Room. Today we're going to be doing another army review, and we're going to be looking at the Nighthaunt. So the Nighthaunt are a super cool army. This army features one of my personal favorite models with the black coach. It's a very unique playstyle because of the ethereal nature of the ghosts. So they're kind of tanky because you can't put any rend onto them, which is a super cool concept, but also just a very dangerous army on the tabletop. We're also going to be taking a look at some of the Scourge of Ghyran warscrolls that they've released and the new rules they've released so far with these guys, and also look at their new faction terrain. But if you aren't already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like, comment if you play Nighthaunt, comment kind of what stuff you're running with these guys. But let's hop right into this. We're going to start out here with the battle traits. Ethereal. Ignore all modifiers to save rolls, positive and negative for friendly Nighthaunt units, excluding Nagash. So most of your army is on a 4+ armor save or a 5+ armor save, and they have a 6+ ward save built in. This just means that you ignore rend, essentially, and you can't use like an all-out defense to make your save better. So that's what that is. Discorporate. This is in your hero phase. It's 1 command point. Pick a friendly Nighthaunt unit to use this ability. That unit has a 5+ ward for the rest of the turn. So this is their equivalent of all-out defense. The only thing is that this is in the hero phase, so you kind of have to think ahead of time of who do I think is going to be in combat, who am I giving this to, because it is a command point to do it, but you can't use all-out defense, so this is kind of the replacement for that. And then we have all these aura of dread charge phase abilities, so we'll break each of these down real quick. The first one is Shriek. Pick a friendly Nighthaunt unit that has not used an aura of dread ability this turn, and that charge this turn to use this ability. Then pick an enemy unit within 1 inch of it to be the target. The number of models in the friendly Nighthaunt unit must be greater than the number of models in the target unit. Subtract 1 for hit rolls for the target's attacks for the rest of the turn. You can only use one of these per unit, but if you charge in, then the unit that you charged into is -1 to hit, which is really awesome. The next one is Wave of Terror. These are all in the charge phase, by the way. Friendly Nighthaunt units that are in combat can use charge abilities this phase. However, if a unit that is in combat uses a charge ability and the charge roll is 3 or less, that unit does not count as having charged this turn. As I understand it, this is just to like move around more. The Hex race do mortals when they charge, and so I think this is kind of the way that they can just keep on getting more mortal damage into the units they're charging into. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know this army. I don't play this army, so that's how I understand it. The next one is Stun. Pick a friendly Nighthaunt war machine or cavalry unit that has not used an aura of dread ability this turn and that charged this turn to use this ability. Then pick an enemy unit within 1 inch of it to be the target. Subtract 1 from save rolls for the target for the rest of the turn. So -1 to save is awesome because that's just essentially getting you an extra rend. You're going to be like base rend 2. If it's your honor guard and your anti-infantry or your anti-cavalry or something like that, then you're going to be like rend an extra rend on top of that. This is a really good one. Anything that can drop saves down is pretty awesome. And then Petrify. Pick a friendly Nighthaunt hero that has not used an aura of dread ability this turn and that charged this turn to use this ability. Then pick an enemy unit within 1 inch of it to be the target. The target has strike last for the rest of the turn. So this one has to come from a hero, but it can go into any unit. It is good to note that all of these are once per turn, so you can't, if you have multiple cavalry charging in, you can't do the -1 to save one multiple times. You can only do that once. If you have just multiple units you want to do minus to hit, you can only do that one time. And then the strike last thing, you can only do that one time, and it has to come from a hero that charged. Moving on to the battle formations, you pick one of these for your entire army. So you have Vanishing Phantasms. Once per turn per army in your movement phase, you can use Ethereal Translocation. Pick a friendly Nighthaunt unit that is not in combat to use this ability. Remove that unit from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. As long as you're not in combat, you can pick someone up and get them 9 inches away from someone. So this kind of is a way to just hop around the board, hop onto objectives, get easy take their lands, where you can just kind of hop around and get your battle tactics this way. Deathstalkers, once per turn per army in your movement phase. There is no escape. Pick a friendly Nighthaunt unit to be the target. For the rest of the turn, the target can still use charge abilities, even if it used a run or retreat ability in the same turn. In addition, for the rest of the turn, no mortal damage is inflicted on that unit by retreat abilities. So this is a thing that would work with like your Hex Wraiths, since they're doing mortals on the charge. Retreat, charge, retreat, charge, retreat, charge kind of a thing. Hunters of the Accursed, once per turn per army at the end of any turn. You can do Vengeful Malazan. Comment if I'm wrong here. Pick up to 3 enemy heroes, each within 12 inches of a different friendly Nighthaunt hero to be the targets. Roll a d3 for each target on a 2+ inflicted amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. So this is kind of like your hero killer. You get your hero right in the middle of a whole bunch of them. You can pick up to 3 and do some mortals there. It is a d3 2+, so it's not a guaranteed mortal damage, but good way to chip into some heroes. Procession of Death. The Cavalcade of Death is the ability. Friendly Nighthaunt infantry units have a ward of 5+, while they are wholly within 6 inches of a friendly black coach. The black coach is awesome. The black coach is so cool. The model is awesome. And then it's actually just really good on the tabletop as well. And with the Scourge of Ghyran stuff, it's looking like it's going to be even better. So we'll get to that here in a second. Moving on to the heroic traits. So you pick one of these to put on one of your heroes. Once per battle in your movement phase, you can do Ruler of the Spectral Hosts. This costs a command point. Pick a friendly Nighthaunt unit that started the battle with 3 or more models and that has been destroyed to be the target. Set up a replacement unit with half the number of models from the target unit rounding up, wholly within 12 inches of this unit and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. You can bring a unit that has died back at half strength for the cost of 1 command point. This is once per battle, so you kind of got to pick and choose when you want to do it. Bringing things back for a single command point is great. Cloaked in Shadow. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack that targets this unit is 1 to 3, the attack fails and the sequence ends. So we've seen this in a couple different armies. The Idoneth Deep can have one where this just means you can only be hit on a 4+. So this is good when you have some elite units that are, hitting on 3s or hitting on 2s. This negates people using like an all-out attack on you. Getting hit on just straight flat 4s is awesome. Terrifying Entity. This unit can use any of the Aura of Dread abilities, even if it doesn't have the required keywords for that ability. As I understand it, just all that stuff where it's specifically for like the cavalry, or if it's specifically for like the heroes, then you don't have to have those keywords to use that Aura of Dread. I think it still has to be, it's still once per turn, so you can't use like the same one multiple times, as I understand it. If you have this on one of your heroes, they can do any of them. Artifacts of Power, once again, this is, you can put one of these on one of your heroes. Once per battle in any combat phase, Light Shard of the Harvest Moon. If this unit is in combat, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Nighthaunt units wholly within 12 inches of this unit for the rest of the turn. A little 12-inch +1 attack bubble is awesome. You just got to get people nice and close because it's wholly within 12, not just units within 12. So your whole entire unit has to be within 12 inches of whoever's holding this to do this. Covetous Familiar. This is a reaction for when your opponent declared a fight ability for a unit in combat with this unit. Roll a d3 on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on that enemy equal to the roll. So this is just, if you have a pretty tanky hero, you put this on him. Every time that someone fights that's in combat with him, you're just going to be dishing out some mortal damage. And then the Soulfire Ring at the end of any turn. If any enemy models were slain by this unit's combat attacks this turn, heal this unit d6. D6 heal is huge. There's going to be a lot of times where you roll a 1 or a 2 and you don't heal that much. But once again, like if you put it on a hero that's pretty tanky, like if you used the Cloak and Shadow heroic trait, so it's hard to hit him, and then you give him like this heal, this Soulfire Ring where you're just healing every time, that makes heroes very hard to kill. Moving on to the spell lore, we've got Shade Mist. This goes off on a 6. Pick a friendly Nighthaunt wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible friendly Nighthaunt unit that has 3 or more models and is wholly within 12 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks that target that unit until the start of your next turn. This is your unlimited spell, so if you have multiple wizards, you can cast this on multiple units. The one thing here is that it has to be a unit that has 3 or more models, so you can't throw this on like a hero. But -1 to wound is super good, especially considering that this goes off on a 6. Spirit Drain, this goes off on a 7. Pick a friendly Nighthaunt wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in the target unit. For each 5+, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. This is your classic Dwellers Below, Horde Killer. You're just doing mortal damage on 5s. So you pick a giant unit of Clan Rats, of Dark Oath Marauders, of Squigs, 5-ups, doing mortals. And then the Spectral Lure, this goes off on a 6. Pick a friendly Nighthaunt wizard to cast this spell. Pick a friendly Nighthaunt unit wholly within 12 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Return a number of slain models to the target unit with a combined health characteristic of up to d6. Okay, moving on to the manifestation lore. This is the Chthonic sorceries. Summon Mortalis Terminexus. This goes off on a 6. If there's not a friendly Mortalis Terminexus on the battlefield, pick a friendly Nighthaunt wizard to cast this spell, then make a casting roll of 2d6. Set up a Mortalis Terminexus wholly within 12 inches of the caster and visible to them. Its profile, you got a 4-up armor save, 6-up ward save, no movement, 6 health, and banishes on a 7+. You've got the Keeper Immortality ability here. Pick a visible friendly Nighthaunt unit within 3 inches of this manifestation to be the target. Roll a dice on a 2+. Pick one of the following effects. Add 1 to run rolls and charge rolls for the target for the rest of the turn, or heal 3 on the target. So this is just your little buff piece, giving people +1 to run and charge, which is pretty awesome. Or healing them is pretty awesome. It is on a dice roll, so you got to get a 2+, but pretty good chance you get that. The Vault of Souls, this goes off on a 6 as well. If there's not a friendly Vault of Souls on the battlefield, pick a friendly Nighthaunt wizard to cast this spell, then make a casting roll of 2d6. Set up a Vault of Souls wholly within 12 inches of the caster and visible to them. The profile here, you got a 4-up armor save, 6-up ward save, no movement, 6 health, and it banishes on an 8+. I've got Siphon Souls. Each time a model, friendly or enemy, is slain within 12 inches of this manifestation, give this manifestation a soul point to a maximum of 6. And then at the end of any turn, you can do Soul Eruption. If this manifestation has 6 soul points, pick any number of enemy units within 6 inches of this unit to be the targets. Roll a dice for each target. On a 3+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. Then reset this manifestation soul points to 0. This is kind of like in Morbid Conjuration, the manifestation lore, the Malevolent Maelstrom, but this one only hits enemy units, which is nice, because the Maelstrom hitting everybody within like 9 inches or whatever it is pretty devastating, and doing 6 mortal damage onto your own unit feels kind of dumb. So this thing on a 3+ doing mortals to only enemy units is pretty awesome. The last one is the Shyish Reaper. Goes off on a 6. If there's not a friendly Shyish Reaper on the battlefield, pick a friendly Nighthaunt wizard to cast this spell. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Set up a Shyish Reaper wholly within 9 inches of the caster, visible to them, and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. The profile here, you got a 4-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 8-inch movement, 7 health, and banishes on a 7+. It's got the Almighty Reap. 1 attack, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 4. And then has the Soul Reaper ability. Add 2 to the attack's characteristic of this manifestation's Almighty Reap if it charged in the same turn. This thing can do a ton of damage, considering you could be 3 attacks on the charge, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 4. That's 12 damage at rend 2. Moving on to the warscrolls now. We're going to start out with Nagash. 3-up armor save, 5-up ward save. He's a wizard, level 9, so he's going to be casting a ton of spells. 10-inch movement, 18 health, 10 control. For melee weapons, he's got Alakanash, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage d6. And then Zephet Nebtar, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 3. He's battle damaged while this unit has 10 or more damage points. Subtract 3 from its power level. And then the Staff of Power, add 2 to casting rolls for this unit while it does not miscast any spells this turn. If this unit miscasts a spell, ignore the restriction that would stop this unit from casting any more spells this turn. So he still takes the mortals, but if he miscasts, he just loses that +2 to cast. But he can still cast spells. Hand of Dust, once per turn per army. At the end of any turn, pick a visible enemy hero or monster in combat with this unit to be the target. Hide a dice in one of your hands or under one of 2 appropriate containers. Your opponent must pick one of your hands or containers. If they pick the one hiding the dice, this ability has no effect. If they pick the empty one, the target is automatically destroyed. The last video I made where I talked about Nagash, I had explained that I have never been Hand of Dusted. A couple days ago, I was playing a game against my buddy, and one of my Achillean Leviathans got Hand of Dusted. I think he was bottom of 1 or top of 2. So that was pretty brutal to have happen. He'd only taken 1 damage and then was vaporized. So this is just the memeiest Age of Sigmar first edition type ability, and I think it's hilarious because if it happens, like, you can't help but laugh. Like, it sucks if it happens to you, but it's just so funny when it happens. We were just laughing the whole time. It was like, oh man, turn 1 or whatever, turn 2, this turtle is just gone. So Hand of Dust is really cool. There's a reason you're paying as many points as you are for Nagash. I think he's like 890 or something like that. This is part of it. The 9 wizard levels is the other part of it. Supreme Lord of the Undead. This is once per battle in your hero phase. Set up a replacement unit identical to the target, wholly within 12 inches of this unit, and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. So he gets to bring back an entire full unit instead of a half-strength unit. And there's no dice roll or anything. It just happens. This is once per battle, so you got to kind of pick and choose who you're bringing back. But you got some good options. You got Hex Wraiths, you got Blade Geists. You got a lot of good options with this army. Invocation of Nagash. This goes off on a 7. This is his Warscroll spell. This unit can cast this spell more than once per phase. Pick a visible unit wholly within 18 inches of this unit that has not been picked to be the target of this spell to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. If the target is an enemy unit, inflict d3 mortal damage on it. If the target is a friendly death unit, pick one of the following effects. Return a number of slain models to the target unit with a combined health characteristic of up to 3. The target has a ward of 5+ until the start of your next turn. So this is really good too. If you got a whole bunch of units, you can give everybody a 5-up ward, or be healing everybody, or be doing damage to your enemies. Moving on to Lady Olander. 4-up armor save, 4-up ward save, wizard 2, 8-inch movement, 7 health, 2 control. Ranged weapons, you got the horrifying visage, 12-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, rend 3, damage d6 with crit auto wound. And then the melee weapons, you got the Staff of Midnight, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage d3 with crit auto wound. And then the Handmaiden Spectral Claws, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, 1 damage with crit auto wound. And the companion keyword. Once per battle in your hero phase, you can use No Rest for the Wicked. Pick any number of friendly Nighthaunt units on the battlefield to be the targets. For each target, you can return a number of slain models to that unit with a combined health characteristic of up to d3 plus 3. You can heal up to 6 health on each unit. This is once per battle, but it can be everybody. It's board wide. There's no range on this, which is super awesome. So you can heal a ton of health back or bring back slain models, which is great. She's the Mortarch of Grief. Subtract 3 from the control scores of enemy units while they are within 12 inches of this unit. So a little bit of control score manipulation with Lady O. And then her War Scroll spell is Grief Stricken. This goes off on a 6. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of this unit to be the target, then make a casting roll of 2d6. Ignore positive modifiers to hit rolls, wound rolls, and save rolls for the rest of the turn. So no all-out attack, no all-out defense, no +1 to wound. Moving on to Kurdos Valentian. 4-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 8-inch movement, 7 health, 5 control. For melee weapons, you got the Sepulchral Scepter, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 3 with crit auto wound. And then the Wraith Herald's Spectral Claws, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1 with crit auto wound, and the companion keyword. You have the If I Cannot Rule, None Shall Rule ability. This is once per turn as a reaction for when your opponent has declared a command for a unit within 12 inches of this unit. Roll a dice on a 3+. Unless your opponent spends 1 additional command point to use that command, the command has no effect. It still counts as having been used, and the command points spent to use the command are still lost. So he can essentially choose once per turn if that command is going to cost 2 command points to use. And it's on a 3+, so it's still a dice roll. But if you don't use that extra command point, then you just lose the command points that you used. So this is kind of a gotcha rule, kind of a little thing. Alrock the Drowner. 4-up armor save, 10-inch movement, 7 health, 2 control. His melee weapons, he's got the Deathwood Ore, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, Rend 2, damage D3 with crit auto wound. And then once per turn per army in your movement phase, you can use Passage Through the Underworlds. If this unit is not in combat, pick a friendly non-hero Nighthaunt unit that is not in combat and is wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Remove this unit and the target from the battlefield, then set them up again on the battlefield, wholly within 6 inches of each other and more than 7 inches from all enemy units. How I've seen this guy being used is kind of like your Alpha Strike. Oh, you're giving me turn 1, you bring an entire block of Blade Geists or Hex Wraiths or whatever, and you just go get right up in someone's face right off the bat, because he can, hop them 7 inches away from enemy units. So you do have to still make a 7-inch charge, but that's kind of what he's being used as, and it's very effective. Reikenor the Grimhailer, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, wizard 1, 12-inch movement, 7 health and 2 control. Melee weapons, you've got the Fell Reaper, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, Rend 2, damage 2, with charge plus 1 damage and crit auto wound. And then you have Killerons, Ghostly Hooves and Teeth, 3 attacks, hitting on 5s, wounding on 3s, no rend, damage 1, with crit auto wound and the companion keyword. In any hero phase, you can use Corpse Candles. So pick either this unit or a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Allocate 1 damage point to the target. If you picked an enemy unit, add 1 to casting rolls for this unit for the rest of the turn. If you picked this unit for the rest of the turn, add 1 to casting rolls for this unit and add 1 to this unit's power level. Every turn, he's either going to be +1 to cast or +1 to cast and +1 to his power level, so you'll be casting 2 spells with him. He does take those damage, but what I've seen people do is they just take damage and then they just rally him back if they have the command points to do it. His War Scroll spell, you've got Wraith Storm. Goes off on a 7. Pick a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Inflict d3 mortal damage on the target. If any mortals are slain by this ability, inflict an additional d3 mortal damage on the target. So you throw this into a little infantry block. You pick off one guy. You do d3 more mortals. Grim Justice, add 1 to hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks made with this unit's Fell Reaper if the target is a priest or wizard. So he is just better if he's fighting your opponent's wizard or priest. Okay, moving on to the Scriptor Mortis. 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8-inch movement, 6 health, 2 control. For melee weapons, you got the Malicious Quill. 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage D3 with crit auto wound. And then once per turn per army in your hero phase, you can use Sentence to Eternal Torment. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. The target has the sentenced keyword for the rest of the battle. And that comes into play with this next ability, which is once per turn per army. At the end of your turn, Judge, Jury, and Executioner. Roll a dice for each sentenced enemy unit on the battlefield. On a 4+, inflict an amount of mortal damage equal to the current battle round number on that sentenced unit. So if you wanted to just chip away at people, he's a guy you could bring in. His ability is 18 inches away, so you just have to roll those 3-ups. And you get it once per hero phase to get this. But if you can get this on enough units, then rolling those 4-ups at the end of your turn does that many mortals. Could be nice. It's just tricky because this is 2 separate dice rolls. Because you have to roll a 3-up to get them sentenced, and then a 4-up to do the mortals. This might not even be going off a whole lot, so he's just kind of a risk to take, I think. We've got the Tomb Banshee, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. Ranged weapons, you've got the Piercing Scream, 12-inch range, D3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, Rend 2, damage D3 with the shoot and combat ability. And then for melee weapons, you've got the Ancient Chill Dagger, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, Rend 2, damage D3 with the crit auto wound ability. And then once per turn per army in any shooting phase, you can use the Ghostly Howl. Pick an enemy unit that had any damage points allocated to it this turn by attacks made with this unit's Piercing Scream to be the target. Roll a dice on a 2+. The target cannot use commands until the start of your next turn. So this is nice because it's any shooting phase, so if you do a covering fire with these guys, all you have to do is get 1 damage through and then roll a 2-up, and that target can't use commands until your next turn. And commands, you're all out defense, all out attack, can really kind of shift the way a combat goes. And then they have the Cacophony of Sorrow. While there are any friendly Myrmorn Banshees units wholly within 12 inches of this unit, ignore positive modifiers to the control scores of enemy units within 12 inches of this unit. If you're going to bring a whole bunch of Banshees together, then they can kind of work and chip away at control scores, because you can't get positive modifiers to the control scores. Okay, we got the Knight of Shrouds, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. The Sword of Stolen Hours, 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2 with crit auto wound. And then they have the Stolen Hours ability. Each time this unit uses a fight ability, after that fight ability has been resolved, heal X, where X is the number of damage points allocated to enemy units by combat attacks made as part of that fight ability. So he's kind of got the vampiric, any damage he does out, he heals back. He's only 5 health, so he's pretty easy to kill, but he will be healing himself if he does any damage. And then Infantry Overseer. Pick a friendly non-hero Nighthaunt infantry unit that has not used a fight ability this turn and is within this unit's combat range to be the target. The target can be picked to use a fight ability immediately after the fight ability used by this unit has been resolved. If it is picked to do so, add 1 to hit rolls for the target's attacks for the rest of the turn. So this is he fights and then your Blade Geists or your Chain Rasps fight right after him, kind of a thing. Then we've got the Knight of Shrouds on the Ethereal Steed, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 12-inch movement, 7 health, 2 control. Sword of Stolen Hours is the same thing. And then you have the Ethereal Steeds, Ghastly Hooves and Teeth, 3 attacks, hitting on 5s, wounding on 3s, no rend, damage 1 with crit auto wound and the companion keyword. At Stolen Hours, same thing, heals back any damage that he does. And then his other ability is the Cavalry Overseer, so his is the same thing as the Knight of Shrouds on foot, but it's with a cavalry unit or a war machine unit, can fight right after he fights, as long as they're within his combat range. Cairn Wraith, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. The Cairnock Scythe, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2 with crit auto wound. And then he's got the Eager Death Dealer's ability. While this unit is in combat, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Grimghast Reapers while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. +1 attacks is awesome. And it's, once again, it's the wholly within 12 inches of him. The Cruelghast Cruciator, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8-inch movement, 6 health, 2 control. For ranged weapons, he's got Phantasmal Torture, 12-inch range, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 1 with the shoot and combat keyword. And then melee weapons, you got Talons and Flensing Knives, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2 with crit auto wound. And he has the Empowered through Excruciation ability. Ignore the first point of damage that would be allocated to each friendly Nighthaunt unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit in each phase. It's very similar to kind of like the Stone Horns, Stone Skeleton thing, but this one is for each Nighthaunt unit wholly within 12 of him. And they ignore that first damage point. So in magic and shooting and in charge combat phase, they ignore the first damage point if they're wholly within 12 of him, which is awesome. Lord Executioner, 4 up armor save, 5 up ward save, 8-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. The Decapitating Great Axe, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 2 with anti-hero +1 rend and crit auto wound. And then once per turn, in any combat phase, staring death in the face. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target, roll a dice. On a 2+, subtract 1 from the attack's characteristic of the target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. In addition, if the target is a hero, subtract 5 from the target's control score for the rest of the turn. So he's pretty nasty. -1 attacks on a 2+ is so good. I run the Ishlaen Guard. They're the defensive eels with the Idneth Deepkin, and theirs is on a 3-up, subtract 1 attacks. But this guy's on a 2-up, and then if it's a hero, you subtract 5 from the control score. Is pretty awesome. But once again, he's only 5 health, so he's not too hard to kill. But that ability in and of itself is awesome. The Dreadblade Harrows, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 12-inch movement, 3 health, 1 control. You got the Dreadblade, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2 with crit auto wound. And then the Ethereal Steeds, Ghastly Hooves and Teeth, 3 attacks, hitting on 5s, wounding on 3s, no rend, damage 1 with crit auto wound and the companion keyword. They've got the Curse of Loyalty ability. If this unit charged this turn, add 3 to the control scores of friendly Nighthaunt units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So, +3 to control score is awesome. It's only if these guys charge. So if these guys are charging to be within 12 of them, probably means other things have to be charging in with these guys. But your control score goes up a ton. Phantasmal Discorporation. Remove this unit from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. This is in your movement phase, so they can kind of hop around and teleport around. It's nice. It's not a roll or anything, and it's anywhere on the battlefield as long as it's outside of 9 inches from enemy units, so these guys can go hop onto objectives and kind of help you set up for your battle tactics. The Guardian of Souls, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, wizard 1, 8-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. He's got the Chill Blade, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2 with crit auto wound. And then he's got the Nightmare Lantern. While this unit is in combat, add 1 to wound rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Nighthaunt units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Something we're seeing a lot with Nighthaunt is you have all these little foot heroes that have like one specific thing, but it's one specific thing that buffs everything around it to make your units better, right? Whether it's the +1 attacks thing, whether it's this guy adding +1 to wound, you see a lot of little abilities like this. The Pyregeists, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8-inch movement, 1 health, 1 control. For ranged weapons, they've got the Gout of Balefire, 10-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1, with crit auto wound and shoot in combat. And then in melee weapons, they've got the Flaming Weapons, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1, with crit auto wound as well. And at the end of any turn, they can light a pyre. If this unit is contesting an objective, pick a visible enemy unit within 6 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a d3. On a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll, and add a number equal to the roll to this unit's control score for the rest of the turn. This is a good way to get onto objectives and to take objectives from people. I don't see these guys being run a whole lot, but doing some chip mortals and adding whatever you rolled to the control score of these guys is pretty good. Spirit Torment. 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. Shacklegeist Chains, 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2 with crit auto wound. And then the Captured Soul Energy ability. Each time a friendly Nighthaunt unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit uses the rally command, you can make 3 additional rally rolls of d6. This just helps you to heal and bring back more models because you get 3 extra rolls at it. The Grimghast Reapers, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8-inch movement, 1 health, 1 control. They got the Slasher Scythes, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, with anti-infantry +1 rend and crit auto wound. And then they've got Reaped Like Corn. This unit's combat attacks score critical hits of unmodified hit rolls of 5+, while the target has 5 or more models. So if you send these guys into a big horde unit, you're critting on 5s, especially if it's infantry, then you're +1 rend, so you're rend 2, critting on 5s. You're going to get a lot of auto wounds through at rend 2, which is really good. Chain Ghasts, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8-inch movement, 3 health, and 1 control. The ranged weapons, they've got Ghast Flails, 12-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 1. And then the melee weapons, surprise, surprise, also the Ghast Flails, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 1, with crit auto wound. And then in your combat phase, you can use another link in the chain, roll a dice, add 1 to the roll if this unit is wholly within 12 inches of any friendly spirit torments. On a 3+ for the rest of the turn, add 1 to hit rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Nighthaunt units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So these guys just being base rend 2 is really good. And then another link in the chain giving them +1 to hit is good too. It is on a 3+, but anytime you can get a free all-out attack is pretty awesome. Moving on, we've got the Chain Rasps, 5 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8-inch movement, 1 health, 1 control. We've got the Malignant Weapon, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s, no rend, damage 1 with crit auto wound. And then they have the Chilling Horde ability, add 1 to wound rolls for this unit's combat attacks if it charged in the same turn. That's really important because wounding on 5s is terrible, so wounding on at least 4s is much better than 5s. The Black Coach, 4 up armor save, 6 up war save, 10-inch movement, 12 health, 5 control. Ranged weapons, they've got the Soul Reach Grasp, 10-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 2, with crit auto wound and the shoot and combat keyword. And then melee weapons, you've got Wraith Weapons, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 2, with crit auto wound. And then the Relic Bearer's Spectral Claws, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1, with crit auto wound and companion keywords. And then the Ethereal Steed's Ghastly Hooves and Teeth, 8 attacks, hitting on 5s, wounding on 3s, no rend, damage 1, with crit auto wound and the companion keyword as well. It's got the Runaway Coach, so in any charge phase, if this unit charged this phase, pick an enemy unit within 1 inch of it to be the target, roll a d3 on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll, so impact hits. And then in your movement phase, you can use Nimbus of Power. If this unit is not in combat, remove it from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. You can kind of teleport and jump around with him. And then at the end of any turn, you can use Evocation of Death. If this unit destroyed any enemy units this turn, pick a friendly, non-unique Nighthaunt hero that has been destroyed, set up a replacement unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit. The replacement unit can only be set up in combat with enemy units that are in combat with this unit. So if you destroy an enemy unit, he can bring back non-unique hero for you, which is awesome considering how many of those little foot heroes you could have to help buff you out. If one of those goes down, you just bring him back, which is really good. The Craven Throne Guard, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8 inch movement, 1 health, and 1 control. Ranged weapons, they've got the Soul Hunter's Crossbow, 16 inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, with the crit auto wound keyword. Melee weapons, you've got the Wicked Sidearm, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1, with crit auto wound as well. And then they have the Spectral Bolts. This unit can pick enemy units to be the targets of shooting attacks, even if they are not visible to this unit. In addition, ignore negative modifiers to hit rolls for this unit's shooting attacks. So this unit can just kind of snipe you from wherever you are. Bladegeist Revenants, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8 inch movement, 1 health, 1 control. They have the Tomb Great Blade, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, with crit auto wound. And then they have Thrashing Desperation. If this unit charges this turn, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of this unit's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. So this is where you're bringing Allrak and you're bringing these guys, or the Chain Rasps or Chain Ghasts, to be able to teleport right in, and then they charge, adding 1 to attacks, and just trying to obliterate whatever you just charged into and surprise people. The Glaive Wraith Stalkers, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8 inch movement, 1 health, 1 control. They have the Hunter's Glaive, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, with charge plus 1 damage, and crit auto wound. Once per battle per army in the deployment phase, you can use the Point of Death. Pick an enemy unit to be the target. The target has the stalked keyword for the rest of the battle. And then this comes into play with the Unerring Hunters. This is a reaction when you declare charge ability for this unit and a stalked enemy unit is within 12 inches of it. Add 2 to charge rolls for this unit made as part of that ability, but this unit must end the move in combat with the stalked enemy unit. So if you're charging into a stalked unit, you get +1 or +2 to charge, and you have to charge into the stalked enemy unit. The Murmorn Banshees, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8 inch movement, 2 health, 1 control. They have the Chill Dagger, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage D3, with crit auto wound. They have the Spell Eater's ability, so this is a reaction when your opponent has declared a spell ability. If a friendly Nighthaunt unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit was picked to be the target of that spell, this unit can use the Unbind ability as if it had Wizard 1. Add 1 to the Unbinding roll for that ability. If the spell is unbound, inflict D3 mortal damage on the caster. So this is essentially a free unbind, and then you're +1 to unbind with these guys when they roll it. And if they unbind the spell, then they do D3 mortals onto the caster. And then you have Spirit Hosts, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8 inch movement, 3 health, 1 control. They have Spectral Claws and Daggers, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1, with the crit auto wound keyword. And then they have the Drawn to War ability. Friendly Nighthaunt infantry heroes have a ward of 4+ while they are wholly within this unit's combat range. So if you wanted to take a unit of these guys to just protect your heroes and give them a 4-up ward save, that's not a bad way to go, I don't think. But that's really all these guys are good for. They're not going to be doing a whole lot of damage. They're not going to be a tactical piece, but they're just going to be protecting your heroes. Okay, we've got the Dread Scythe Harridans. 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8 inch movement, 1 health, 1 control. Scythed Limbs, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1 with the crit auto wound keyword. And then Murderous Bloodlust. Add 1 to hit rolls and wound rolls for this unit's combat attacks while it is in combat with any damaged enemy units, or while it is in combat with any enemy units that had any models slain in the same turn. So essentially, if they charge into something that has taken any sort of damage or lost a model, they get +1 to hit and wound, which is awesome. And then they have the Harrowing Shriek. If this unit charged in the same turn, subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks made by enemy units while they are in combat with this unit. So they charge into someone, that unit is -1 to hit into this thing. So these guys are cool. And then the Hex Wraiths. 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 12-inch movement, 3 health, 1 control. The Spectral Scythe. 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1, with charge +1 damage and crit auto wound. And then the Ethereal Steeds, Ghostly Hooves and Teeth. 3 attacks, hitting on 5s, wounding on 3s, no rend, damage 1 with crit auto wound and the companion keyword. They've got the Spectral Hunter's ability, so this is in any charge phase. If this unit charged this phase, pick an enemy unit within 1 inch of it to be the target. Roll a d3 on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. So this is just kind of your impact hits, very basic D3 2+. But now we're going to kind of hop into something that I think is pretty cool. It's what they're coming out with the next GHB. It's called the Scourge of Ghyran. So every single army is going to have some new rules, some new battle formations, some sort of kind of new things, new units, new war scrolls. So we'll kind of hop into what we're looking at for the Nighthaunt, which I think is pretty cool. The Nighthaunt got 2 new battle formations with the Scourge of Ghyran. So you've got the Hungry Nexus, once per turn per army at the end of the enemy turn. You can use the Greedy for Souls ability. Pick a friendly Nexus of Grief to be the target. For the rest of the turn, the target has a move characteristic of 3 inches. It can immediately move up to 3 inches and can move into combat, but cannot end that move on a terrain feature or within 3 inches of an objective. The Nexus of Grief is their new faction terrain that they just made. It's very similar to what they'd made for like the Soulblight Gravelords, where you kind of have the 3 crypts and you can put 1 down in the deployment phase, and then at the end of the deployment phase you put 2 more down. That's what the Nexus of Grief is. We'll get to that here in a second. This just means it can move around at the end of the enemy turn. It can also kind of teleport, but we'll get to that here in a second. We've got Death Rust Geists. Once per turn per army in the enemy hero phase, you got Blades of Eternal Rust. Pick an enemy unit that is in combat with any friendly Nighthaunt units to be the target. Subtract 1 from save rolls for the target for the rest of the turn. This is pretty awesome. This is in the enemy hero phase, so when you throw this down and you pick a unit that's in combat with any of your units, and then they're -1 to save. So this isn't going to come into play all the time, but you're going to be in combat with at least 1 unit most of the time. So I like that because -1 to save is really good. And then we've got the Artifacts of Power. You can use this table instead of the normal ones. The Staff of Suffering. While this unit is within 12 inches of any damaged enemy units or enemy units that have had any model slain, add 1 to casting rolls for friendly Nighthaunt units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. This is kind of a little situational. This guy who's holding this has to be within 12 inches of any damaged enemy units or units that have lost models. And then you can add casting rolls for any Nighthaunt units while they're within 12 inches of him. So that would include him, I assume, so he can get +1 to cast if he's within close to anybody that's damaged or has died. But it also affects other wizards around him as well. And then the Tombstone of the Penitent. Add 1 to the attack's characteristic of this unit's melee weapons for each non-faction terrain feature that is being contested by friendly units to a maximum of 8. So if you just have a bunch of little accessory pieces that are just next to terrain features that aren't faction terrain, whoever's holding this is just going to get 1 more attack for each thing that's being contested. It doesn't have to be controlled, which is nice. It just has to be contested. So you want to get all your guys right next to terrain features if you're using this, and then whoever's holding this can get up to 8 attacks, 8 more attacks. And then the Amulet of Waking Nightmares. This is in your hero phase. Pick a visible enemy hero within 18 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+ for the rest of the turn. The target cannot be affected by the guarded hero ability or the obscuring terrain ability. This is a way you can kind of snipe heroes off the board. And then we're going to hop into kind of those new War Scrolls. So the 2 that they've released are Kurdos Valentian, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8-inch movement, 7 health, and 5 control. You've got the Sepulchral Scepter. 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, Ren 2, damage D3 with the crit auto wound keyword. Then you have Inescapable Mockery. Add 1 to hit and wound rolls for this unit's combat attacks that target an enemy unit that has a lower control characteristic than this unit. That's pretty easy because he's control 5. So unless you're fighting giant monsters with this guy, he's going to be +1 to hit and wound, which is really cool. And then he's got, in any combat phase, a Traitor's Legacy. If this unit is in combat, pick a visible friendly Nighthaunt unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Pick one of the following to apply for the rest of the turn. Regicide and Kinslaying. The target's melee weapons have anti-hero +1 rend. Usurpation and Larceny. Add 5 to the target's control score. Sedition and Betrayal. Enemy units cannot use commands while they are in combat with the target. So looking up at Inescapable Mockery, you're +1 to hit and wound. If the enemy has a lower control characteristic than you, if you added 5 more onto his control score with this ability, you're control 10. So you're going to be just tearing through people, hitting on 2s and wounding on 2s a lot of time if you do that. Giving him anti-hero, making him run 3 onto heroes is really cool. And then turning off commands is also a very good choice. The Black Coach, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 10-inch movement, 12 health, 5 control. The Wraith's Spectral Weapons, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, Ren 2, damage 2 with charge +1 damage and crit auto wound. And then the Black Coach's Iron Shod Wheels, 8 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, Ren 2, damage 2 with crit auto wound and the companion keyword. And then once per turn per army, in any hero phase, you can use the Spectral Attendance ability. Pick one of the following to apply for the rest of the turn. Noble Blade. This unit's melee weapons, including companion weapons, have crit mortal instead of crit auto wound. The Unholy Grail. Pick a friendly Nighthaunt unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Each time that unit uses the rally command, you receive 3 additional rally points. That one's cool because it's not like 3 additional dice to roll. It's 3 additional rally points, so you're automatically healing 3, and then whatever you roll with your roll. And then Tome of Undead Lore. This unit has Wizard 1. So you can turn the Black Coach into a wizard if you want, which is cool. And then 1 stop, no return. This is once per turn per army in any hero phase. Pick an objective you do not control to be the target for the rest of the turn. While enemy units are contesting the target objective, they cannot score critical hits while this unit is also contesting it. Hit rolls that would be critical hits score hits instead. If you're facing another army that has a ton of critical hit mechanics, you just pick an objective that they're on and you go get this guy over there as well. That unit can no longer have critical hits. It's just normal hits. And then Spectral Carriage. This is in your charge phase. For the rest of the phase, add 1 to the number of dice rolled when making charge rolls for this unit to a maximum of 3. 3d6 charge is awesome. I don't think we need to say that too much. But we're going to look at the faction terrain now that they just announced, because I think it's pretty cool, and it has to do with that new battle formation as well. They got a new battle trait. So the Sepulchral Apparitions, this is once per battle per army in the deployment phase. If there is a friendly Nexus of Grief on the battlefield, you can set up to 2 additional Nexuses of Grief on the battlefield. Each must be set up wholly outside enemy territory, more than 3 inches from all objectives and other terrain features, and more than 12 inches from all other friendly Nexuses of Grief. Designer's note here. The original Nexus of Grief is set up in Step 1 of the deployment phase using the Deploy Faction Terrain ability. This ability allows you to set up a second and third terrain feature, as is used in Step 3 of the deployment phase after armies have been deployed. So when you deploy your faction terrain, you put one of these out, and then once the armies have been deployed, you put the other 2 out, and they just have to be 3 inches from objectives and enemy units and 12 inches from other Nexuses of Grief. But we'll look at the Nexus of Grief right now real quick. It's got a 5 up armor save, 5 up ward save, no move, 8 health, no control. It's cover and impassable. It's got the Hungry Crypts, so once per turn per army in your movement phase, remove this terrain feature from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield within 3 inches of a friendly Nighthaunt unit, more than 3 inches from all objectives. and enemy units, and more than 12 inches from all other friendly nexuses of grief. So this is kind of that teleport thing I was talking about. This can kind of hop around and jump around from place to place. You can do it once per turn in the movement phase. And then Screams of the Penitent. Enemy units cannot use commands while they are within 3 inches of this terrain feature. So that's where the battle formation would kind of come in handy, because these guys can move into combat. And so if you move into combat, then no commands. And then Awful Refashioning. Once per turn per army at the end of any turn, pick a friendly Nexus of Grief, then pick up to 3 friendly Nighthaunt units wholly within 12 of it to be the targets. You cannot pick the same unit to be the target of this ability more than once per phase. For each target, if the target is damaged, heal the target for D3. If the target is not damaged, return a number of slain models to it with a combined health characteristic of up to D3. So this is kind of just a way to heal and bring back guys, which is a pretty big part of this army, is just healing and bringing units back. That is the army review. That's the new stuff as well that we're covering here with Scourge of Ghyran and then the new faction terrain. Pretty cool stuff as a whole. The ethereal concept is really awesome, and it makes sense because they're all ghosts. You can't, touch them necessarily. So they're most of the time they're just sitting on a 4+ or a 5+ depending on the unit. But it's a very cool mechanic. It's a very cool looking army. The ghosts the ghost stuff is just cool, and I think that the way that the heroes work with the units is really awesome. The Black Coach might be one of my favorite models in all of Warhammer. If you like this video, please leave a like, subscribe to our channel. If you play Nighthaunt, like I said earlier, what are you running? What kind of what kind of lists are you building? We want to hear from you guys and kind of see what you like to run and what you like to play. Thank you for watching this video. We'll see you next time.